Thanks for tuning in to watch Crossing Dakota. But before we begin, let's talk about great riding experiences and what we can do to create them. As motorcyclists, we can control the opportunity to have great riding experiences and great trails. There are lots of organizations that work to increase the demands on our existing trail systems. Bike manufacturers, accessory companies, tour groups all work to get people out on the trails. And it's wonderful that they get these people energized and out on the trail systems.
As demands increase and government budgets decrease, the government solution is to simply shut down our off-road riding access. It's going to become increasingly important for private groups to step up and help fight this battle.
Dedicated groups such as the Trail Preservation Alliance of Colorado, the Blue Ribbon Coalition, the American Motorcycle Association, and our group, the South Dakota Trails Development Corporation, all do the hard work of developing great trails. But we need your support. We need your financial support.
Support of trail maintenance and preservation is at a critical point. The days have passed where contributing $10 or $20 to a group ride or buying your trail pass was adequate to sustain the trails. We're going to have to consider as individuals stepping up to give $100, $300, $500, maybe even $1,000 individually in instances where our trails are really threatened. Let's face it, we roll up to the trailhead in trucks and trailers worth tens of thousands of dollars, riding motorcycles worth thousands of dollars, and wearing hundreds of dollars worth of protective gear. The time is at hand where we're going to have to get real serious about supporting trail advocacy if we want to have these places to ride in the future.
We are blessed with riders who will donate their time and skills to develop great trails. What we need from you is financial support. Please contribute to your continued riding enjoyment. Find a group that you like and support them in a significant financial manner. Thank you for your support and interest.
Now it's time to find some inspiration for adventure as we watch fellow motorcycle enthusiast Michael Bilecki's story of riding the Dakota Adventure Loop in Western South Dakota. Please sit back and enjoy Crossing Dakota.
Most people don't think about South Dakota for adventure bike riding. And so I just set on a task, not knowing if we would be successful or not, of finding what I thought was just a wonderful, scenic, adventuresome route through Western South Dakota.
This is my first time dual sporting or riding off-road at all in the Black Hills, and it's very different. The terrain is harder for me to read because I am unfamiliar with it. Dark spots in the dirt, I don't know if that's mud or just a dark patch in the dirt, so I have to slow down for things that locals probably don't need to slow down for.
Well, the weather that we've had here this last month is way more rain than we've ever had before in the month of June. July and August is fairly dry months with your occasional scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon. But you should be prepared for rain at any time because as we all know, the Weather Service never gets anything right. and over the hills here, it kind of builds its own weather.
Just when things started to level out in my mind a little bit, we got into some pretty serious mud. And so the beginning of the trip was a lot of exercise, got me over a lot of probably my anxiety.
I was a little surprised that we attacked Bear Mountain on Monday morning at all. It had rained pretty much the entire night, the night before. And if I had known that it had very likely rained on Bear Mountain too, I wouldn't have tried it on Monday morning.
On the backside, going up to Bear Mountain fire outlook, if it's rained in the last 2 days, you attempt to go up there, I wouldn't go there. There's a spring that runs out of the side of that hill. There is water that runs down that trail for a ways anyway. And it's slick rocks and the mud is super slick.
It was impassable, soupy. It was so slick we couldn't stand on it to pick bikes up. It was drop after drop after drop. I got roosted. I think everybody got roosted at some point by the guy in front of him.
Normally, if there's been no rain for a few days beforehand, there's no problem other than a fairly steep climb and some rocks. But if it's raining, you don't even want to attempt it. And boy, we were muddy.
Rain happens everywhere, but that was exceptionally slick mud. And I think in hindsight, we probably oughtn't to have tried it because everybody got very tired and very demoralized by 2 hours into the first day of a 5-day ride. And that set us up for a cascade of failures on Monday that were very difficult to overcome.
A ranger in Oregon in 1934, and every lookout tower wound up with one. They do work, and they still work. Yeah, we still use them. And there's actually no other way to do it. It's almost like a military artillery aiming circle.
We're with a group of people that just know the country and it's mapped out pretty well. So got onto some Jeep trails, which are my favorite probably. Great scenery. It was good.
After we gave up on Bear Mountain, it was double track, but it was rutted and bumpy and there were mud patches, but there was always a way to go around them. There was something to keep your attention all the time. You were never able to just zone out and ride along. But ruts and bumps and rocks and mud, but not all at once. That was wonderful. And that, I really got in my happy point.
Yeah, I've lived here in the Black Hills all my life. I started riding motorcycles when I was 9 years old, always off-road. When I first started riding motorcycles, I started racing at the age of 13. I rode the first short track that they ever had at Sturgis at the age of 16, and I raced professionally on flat track for a lot of years. Not full-time, of course, because I was married and had family, but I did as much as I could.
I live here, so I'm a little bit used to it, but there are deer everywhere. You don't go anywhere without seeing some deer. Raptors of multiple varieties, any place you go. Saw the tail end of the herd of elk that we came across. I saw one of the calves, but the elk here are spectacular.
I'm riding a 2006 BMW F650 DAKAL, which is the dirtier of the F650s. It has a 21-inch front wheel and the taller suspension. It's been very challenging. Power-wise, it's fine. It carries lots of luggage, but in knowing what the ride entails, I would be much happier on a smaller bike now.
I'm on a KLR that's had a piston kit in it, so it's a 685, and has had some other modifications, but it's an entry-level bike. I love it. I think it just performs great. It starts, it runs, and for my skill level, it is a great bike that is reliable, and it makes me learn technique. It doesn't make up for lack of technique. You have to have the technique. And I'm getting there. I'm having a lot of fun. It's the funnest thing I've ever done.
we had to pick up my bike. I lost count at least 5 or 6 times, but I think everybody fell on Monday a whole bunch, so I wasn't really off the curve for that at least. And then we ended up on that ATV track that was fesh and switchbacks, and we were, if I'd hit that when I was fresh, I would have been fine, but I hit it already tired, and that was a recipe for disaster. We bit off way more than we could chew on Monday.
I'm very new at this. I started last year, so I have 1 season, and our seasons are short, so I haven't ridden very much, is the bottom line. I'm not great at any of it, but I enjoy that as much as anything. The deep gravel is harder for me, but there was nothing other than the mud that an intermediate rider shouldn't be able to have fun on. I mean, I go to have fun, not to set any world's records.
Camp will be an hour, and it's nothing. I mean, it's just.
I mean, it's pretty.
Well, sort of.
I mean,
And then we'll cut back around to the horse sanctuary and end up at our campsite. There's no hurry because I'm tracking the radar here. It's probably raining on our campsite. Just getting ready to stop right now. So there's no point in hurrying over there. Because we'll let the thunderstorm go through. It's a gravel dirt road in there, but I mean you can drive a car on it, so it might be a little slippery.
there's probably more dirt than gravel in some spots.
Yeah.
You know, the only other spot would be if it's rained up there.
On
is-
Cement Ridge,
Yeah,
the road in
that's
there.
all dirt.
Yeah.
So when people would, out on the ranch, they'd bring their meat in and hang it here and then do all the processing and stuff. So it was made out of bricks originally, and I've decided to bring my kids back here, and my best friend lives here and her husband, and so,
Well, we appreciate the hospitality.
well, I appreciate you
Great
guys.
burger, man.
Yeah,
Food,
Thank you.
Food was great.
Good. We'd like to hear that, so thanks for coming, you guys, so much.
Thank you.
Come again, okay? Okay.
Bye-bye.
The big fields of flowers were gorgeous, and just fields and fields of it, yellow as far as the eye can see, and it smelled so sweet. We got to see tons of wildlife that is maybe not necessarily unique to South Dakota, but seeing all of it in one day is probably unique to South Dakota. I mean, just today we saw prairie dogs, antelope, deer, bison, and a golden eagle.
Most people have seen pictures of the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore and those kinds of things, so they kind of understand the mountainous areas and the big pine-covered and spruce-covered trees and beautiful creeks and those kinds of things. So that's sort of expected. What isn't expected is south of the Black Hills, there's a unique prairie ecosystem down to the Nebraska border, and the Cheyenne River that we cross and those kinds of things, which is a whole different kind of vista. And then even within the Black Hills itself, the southern hills is different than the middle hills, is different from the northern hills.
We ain't getting out of here.
Maybe in a couple weeks. How much food did you bring, Bob?
It's beautiful country, just everything to see. Every 20 minutes, the country's different. From running water to dry arid, it's everything.
What I wanted to have was a loop ride so you could start any place and end up the same place without any backtracking. And so that's why we have this loop concept that I think's pretty cool. Huge variety, everything from very flat, desolate prairie to mountain vistas to about anything you can think of. And difficulty changes a lot too, from really easy stuff to stuff that's really expert only. And so all of that fell into the development of it.
We started developing this Dakota Adventure Loop about 3 years ago. I personally, I think I've got almost 3,500, 3,800 miles just trying to develop the trail system. It's been a lot of fun doing it. I think it's just the greatest thing. I hope everybody that can get a chance to comes, does it, and enjoys it.
I had been here before, and I'd seen I-90 and I'd seen Mount Rushmore, but I had no idea the richness and diversity that is available here to ride. Especially coming from the east, I can't stress enough that we would ride all day on beautiful, legal land and never see another bike, never see another truck, never see another vehicle. It's all here for the taking. It is all you can eat, dual sporting. And everything from nice, clean, groomed gravel to places that I really, really wished I'd had a RZR or something with 4 wheels.
Through the central part of the hills, where we go through Custer State Park, Wind Cave, Iron Mountain Road, those areas, those will be paved. If you know about Butler maps, you know that they rate those G1, G2, G3. The Black Hills has more G1 routes per square mile than any place that they have found, which is pretty cool. If you like riding motorcycles, it's hard not to like riding that pavement. Even though it's pavement, it's pretty good slab.
Nice. Well, if you want to leave one, I'll take it out for you. Okay.
The pavement sections that we're on have such spectacular scenery that isn't a take back for me. I mean, that isn't a distraction because we saw the things that put South Dakota on the map, basically, and we saw them all in a pretty short period of time. And then we were back to the woods. So I would say it's a plus to the overall trip.
You know, we have tunnels through rock in the Smoky Mountains, but not one lane, and you feel like you could reach out and touch either edge of it. It was beautiful, and a whole bunch of them. It was wonderful. The view was gorgeous. Of course, we got to see Rushmore, which was lovely, and the Needles area is unlike anything that I've seen in South Dakota.
With the exception of the short times where we had to go on a road, the very short times, I think I saw one ATV maybe. And the riding that I've done has all been mostly in Western South Dakota, and that's very typical. And while on the trail system, we did not see a single other person. And the lack of pressure on the resource is probably what separates us from any place I've ever been. Whether it's the road riding, the off-road riding, the mountain biking, great resource with very limited pressure on it, and it's a deal changer.
After the washout in the deep pine trees, that was the kind of thing that makes me happy. It's got ruts, it's got bumps, it's got mud puddles that are not, the kind that eat your bike. Just go aroundable or go throughable without killing you. That was beautiful country. And parts of it felt very solitary to me because you're in this rolling hills with pine trees as far as the eye can see. And it's just you and the road and your motorcycle. And it was beautiful.
Quite an array of scenery that you'll see. And some of the vistas that you'll see up on top of the mountain, especially like at Cement Ridge, that's a beautiful, beautiful vista up there. You can see for hundreds of miles.
There's a lookout called Cement Ridge, which is a fire lookout, about 6,000 square feet. And you can see Wyoming, you can see Montana, you can see South Dakota. And from there you drop down into Spearfish Canyon, which is on the highway, scenic highways and byways of the United States. Stunningly beautiful. Dances with Wolves was filmed there. High mountain cliffs, really steep cliff faces. A lot of it kind of reminds me of Yosemite, but on a smaller scale. Creek running down the middle of it, beautiful waterfalls. I mean, it's a picture-taking delight. Anybody that goes there is going to say, wow, God was having a good day when He made this.
The lodge is located in one of the prettiest places, I think, in Western South Dakota, and was tried to build it in the tradition of where it sits. You know, log, stone, fireplaces. It has waterfalls, blue ribbon trout streams around it. But the unique thing about it is you can leave from the lodge and be on some of the best pure road riding, or leave from the same parking lot and go directly, literally, one exit of the parking lot's gravel and one exit of the parking lot is paved. It sits on, you know, on a live stream that accesses the National Forest and also acts as great pavement. That's kind of what makes it special, I think, and unique as opposed to other places.
Because Homestake picked the water up, a big mining company for hydro. And they put it into pipes, which I can show you where the pipe was. So until a couple years ago, there was no waterfall. This waterfall reappeared out of, and I don't know the exact number of years, but like 50, 60, 70 years, there was no waterfall yet. Most people's lives. And it was piped into a hydro plant that we'll see partway down here. Then it was picked up again. The water and piped in the lower part of the canyon had no water in it.
There is a section of that pipe at the hydro plant in Spearfish.
Yeah.
But the pipe was what, probably 6 foot in diameter or so. But it was wooden.
Redwood stave pipe.
Yeah, it was like how you build barrels, you know, and then they put metal around it. But it doesn't look like that when you get down there at all anymore.
Well, you know, as we started out on pavement, but in a beautiful limestone canyon that I'm pretty familiar with, so I kind of know the highlights of it, but I don't know that I've ever gone down it that I haven't seen something new, and I've been going up and down it for 20 years. If I slow down to look, I always see some new rock, some new tree, some new point of interest, and so pretty amazing place. And then you roll from there out onto the prairie, and it is a stark contrast in just a matter of minutes.
I was surprised when we left the canyon to find that there was smoke in the air. Apparently there's a wildfire going in Manitoba that made the whole day hazy. In some ways though, I think that actually kind of accentuated how far away things were when we were in the open prairie. I think if the air had been clear, it would have been harder to judge the distances. The middle section of the day, where we were riding straight through the prairie, you could see horizon to horizon, and all you could see was this yellow clover that smelled so sweet. I wish I could bottle that fragrance. And it just kept going for miles and miles and miles with no sign of human habitation. It was very humbling and very beautiful.
Once you leave Spearfish and head north, in about a 10-mile period, it totally changes. It changes from a mountain vistas to very flat, rolling prairies. Some of the lowest population density we have in the United States. I love that expansiveness, the openness, the nothingness. Not everybody appreciates that, but it's just great. You're looking 30 miles to the horizon, just seas of orange and yellow with sweet clover blooming. See a lot of wildlife, antelope, horses, everything, and I find it very calming and wonderful.
You get past Belfouche and it goes from the Black Hills to, we went on some prairie where there was no sign of human interaction whatsoever. Pretty cool transition in a matter of minutes.
Beautiful sweet clover, just miles and miles of it. The colors were great. It was tall, 3 feet or more in places.
And then as we exit the Black Hills on the northern side, the terrain changes instantly and goes to prairie environment that has wide expanses. There'll be spots that you can stop and you see no sign of man. You won't see a telephone pole, fence post, nothing.
Favorite up here. This is the South Cape Hills, this is the North Cape Hills. So we're going to come in here and ride. There's a little bit of a hill climb here. Cool vistas. Probably you'll see some prairie grouse. These birds will come up about the size of a chicken, maybe right in front of your tire. I mean, they'll be real close like that. Usually 2 to 10. And then we're going to ride up here to the North Cape Hills, which has some stunning scenery.
Normally on this DAKAL route, we don't see a lot of people. I think we've seen one motorcycle today on part of it, a couple of four-wheelers, and that's about it.
Typically when I'll ride this, I'll ride the whole thing and probably never see another motorcycle. And that's not uncommon.
The density of road users and off-road users in the east is much higher per mile. I mean, it's really easy to get sloppy with your lane position here because you just know nobody's coming around the corner in the other direction. And it's really, really rare that you're wrong.
As you continue north, you'll see the cave hills, the north and south cave hills in the distance, and you'll see them from about 30 miles away. And it's kind of a surprise because you would never expect these buttes to be jumping up in the middle of the prairie. You can see the really cool rock formations. There's lots of natural springs that come out, variety of wildlife, but it's just a surprise, sort of. You're in the prairie and all of a sudden, wow, where did this come from?
When we came around that turn and I saw that, it actually took my breath away. You know, I was busy not crashing, and then I looked up and I went, oh, this is beautiful. Where did this come from? And I was already on the top of the bluff. I should have known there would be stuff like that there, and I didn't. It was completely unexpected and a huge treat.
You're out there in the flat ground, which is beautiful itself because it's just, there's nothing out there. And you just wonder, this has got to be about the way it looked 150 years ago. And then all of a sudden, you're right up here to the south and north cave hills, and they just pop up out of the ground.
There's no single track, but there's some really rough areas that kind of ride like single track. You have to be fairly skilled to get through. Smaller is better in some of the areas. If you're on a big bike, if you're not pretty skilled, there's going to be some areas you want to go around.
Some places are tougher on a big bike. If you're going to ride a big 1200cc motorcycle or 1000cc motorcycle on this ride, you need to be a fairly skilled rider.
Yeah, there it is.
There's a shovel there that we hid under a rock, and then we build a cairn on another rock right there for anybody that would ever need that shovel to scoop that narrow path out, because sometimes it fills in after it gets heavy rain and the silt and the dirt and rocks will fill in. And there's a little crevice on the side there that you don't want to fall into. It's not a big bike friendly trail there, but you don't have to take it. You can drive up to it, look at it, and then ride back out, because it's just an in and out thing anyhow. It's not really, if you go down the bottom and up and around, you can make a loop, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I keep going back to that. I haven't done this a whole lot. There was a surprise around every corner, enough to keep it interesting, but not enough to make it so that I was so uncomfortable I didn't want to ride. But you get up through the rocks and come over the top, and there's flowers in the field and there's flower under your wheel. So it was kind of a combination. But the vistas and the views, it's one thing to drive through the plains in a car where you're this far off the ground. All of a sudden you're looking at plains and you're maybe 700 feet up in the air, and it's an experience that I've been a lot of places in this country and a lot of places around the world. I've never seen that before anywhere. It's the elevation, looking out into the plains and no other mountains around, that was just separates it from anything I've ever seen.
This spot is a surprise. You would never expect this to be in this part of the state. An absolutely gorgeous valley, bordered on two sides by cliffs, and it's a box canyon. So there's, as far as I can tell, there's nothing living in it. Maybe some cows, but there's no wildlife or anything. It's just beautiful.
sticking straight out of that prairie are these cave hills that are, you know, have pine trees on them. And again, it's just one of those items that you just don't expect to see as you come along. Completely undisturbed almost. I mean, there's some cows here with us, and that's about it.
We're camped on the rim of a canyon. I don't know how high it is, it's at least a couple hundred feet. There's a gorgeous lush valley in between the two canyon walls. It's breezy, it's cool, and we have the place to ourselves. There is not a soul in sight except for us. It's beautiful.
Where we are today in the North Cave Hills is sort of a surprise because you don't expect these buttes to jump up out of the prairie. And they're stunningly beautiful, and nobody ever comes here, and it's really, really great.
We've seen zero, zilch, none, nobody. We're up here alone. When you come up here, you're gonna be alone.
I thought I was a little reluctant. I was the hotel guy, but I rounded up the camping gear, and now I'm glad I have it, and I'm sure it's going to get used a lot more than I anticipated when we started the trip.
There was nobody up there but us, and there probably hasn't been anybody up there yet this year. And it's possible there might be a few people up there on the 4th of July weekend, and then you won't see anybody up there again, ever.
Yeah.
They're rounded off a little.
This is a box canyon, so that's probably a reason you don't see a lot of wildlife in it. You just can't get out.
It's great to get away with friends and have a good ride. You can't beat it, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's just great. It's beautiful.
This morning when I woke up and unzipped that tent, it was damp and a little bit overcast and misty, and everything was wet. We thought we were in for it for rain. It thundered and lightened very convincingly all around us. But it only ever drizzled on us. A couple of times, never really bad.
I saw lightning flashes all night long while I was supposed to be sleeping, and I anticipated to have been a storm, but actually it never rained all night long. Beautiful, beautiful, quiet, serene sunrise, no wind, quite a bit of dew. You know, there's water running off the tent, but hadn't really camped on the ground for years. Spend quite a bit of time outdoors and in the woods, but not on the ground. I was kind of dreading it. Turned out one of the best wake-ups I've had for a long time. Really good.
Well, it was a little wet. It rained last night, and a lot of dew, so everything was wet. But other than that, no problem. And we packed up, and then we had a great ride across the northern cave hills through deep grass and clover, rocky uphills and downhills. To me, that's the ultimate. That's what I love to do.
So we woke up and shook off all of our stuff as best we could and packed up and took off. And we went for this ride around the rim of the canyon that we'd camped on. And we came around the other end of it, and we actually rode up to the edge of the canyon and got off our bikes and went and sat on the rim with our feet dangling off into the void. We were actually sitting on a shelf that overhung the canyon. and it looked like there should have been dinosaurs strolling through it. It looked absolutely prehistoric and absolutely untouched by people. It was beautiful.
And then we went farther east to the Slim Buttes area, which is some nice big rocky overcliffs that you can ride out on or stand on. It was magnificent, just magnificent.
In the afternoon, we rode up another set of buttes that was a completely different type of rock, maybe limestone or talc or something like that. It was very pale and very powdery, which meant that in the areas where there was a lot of erosion, there was silt or fesh in the bottoms of all the ruts, which makes for lively riding, because when you've got a rut with silt at the bottom, your bike's moving this and bumping against the sides of the rut. Keeps you on your toes.
The white talcony powder, sandy stuff that your front end will push a little bit. You have to keep your momentum up some to keep going through it, so you don't get to doing that wobbling, fishtailing kind of stuff.
You have to be careful looking around or you'll be looking at the ground, I guess. Not so difficult that you couldn't enjoy what you're doing, but certainly far from boring. Everything from large crushed red gravel, which the Forest Service up here thinks is the best trail they've ever seen in their life, to pockets of sand and silt, and still some wet spots even though it hasn't rained recently. So a lot of variety, not so hard that you couldn't enjoy the views and the vistas.
And then there was a good rocky downhill with some big round rocky rocks with crevices in them that we had to ride down. And everybody made it fine, and it was just a great day.
What we might think is fairly easy or intermediate skills, we don't have a common language in dirt biking to communicate that well. So it's easy for people to get in over their heads, and it stops being fun, if you're scared and those kinds of things. That's real reasonable. But like I said, there are go-arounds on all of those things, so you don't have to experience it all. The idea is to have fun and not make it hard or put yourself at risk.
This transaction at this table right here.
Let me tell you, quite a bit.
Yeah, we have quite a few folks come in here and sit around.
The transition from the top of the bluff with the canyons and the steep hills that we were on, there's a big descent down back into the prairie, and watching the vegetation change and the temperature rise as you come down from where it's so breezy all the time, it's different ecosystems. It probably has its own microclimates. It may have rained on us and not in the valley. I would completely believe that. It was beautiful and very unique.
us how great you were, Bob. Where did you come in on that race?
Well, you know, I don't remember. I was so young. I think probably last.
Yeah.
When I was 16 years old, which is 1963, the Sturgis Jack Pine Gypsies built the first short track at Sturgis. And I was lucky enough, I guess, or had a bike I could ride at the time that I'd bought. And I raced in the first short track there at Sturgis when I was 16, which is, like I say, 1963. I sure didn't win it, I'll tell you that. There were some faster guys there than me, that's for sure.
It's a perfect line of sight. We're on the top of the hill. It's beautiful and sunny, and the sky is crystal clear above us. We're going to have a beautiful view of the full moon tonight. I can't think of a place that I would rather be in the United States than this place.
There's always a sense of sadness that we don't get to ride anymore, that we've come to the conclusion. You know, we've had great experiences. It's always fun with the group that you take people who didn't know each other at all and they've grown closer together, and you've developed friendships that will last a lifetime. You've created memories that will last a lifetime. That's the whole thing of adventure riding.
Honestly, the beginning of the trip, I like the social aspect of it. I'm just a medium rider, and so I want to have fun with the people. And at the beginning of the ride, there's a little bit of tension on this ride, and by the finish, now the social aspect is where it should have been. And I'll be in touch with the people on this ride for years to come. So that development was awesome.
This trip has improved my riding skills and strengthened areas that are weak in my skills that I didn't realize were weak because I never see that kind of terrain. I definitely want to come back to ride this entire loop again. I would love to try it on a smaller bike. I would like to have the opportunity to try a bike that I'm more comfortable throwing around than a big bike. And I would definitely pack a lot lighter than I did.
I've been thinking about going home and selling my road bike. When I look at when I go out to the garage and say, which thing do I want to get on, even though I've only been doing this a year, I want to get on the adventure bike. I'm very surprised at how much I enjoy it. And we are very lucky that not even a mile from my house, you know, I'm on a trail that I could never ride all the trails that are here. So the opportunities are great in South Dakota.
It's challenging, it's beautiful, it is, desolate's not the word, it is solitary, in the sense of solitude being strengthening. It's been an amazing experience.
Create an adventure, and each day something should happen that you don't expect. And that's the wonder of adventure riding. And you don't know what that will be, but there's always going to be something if you challenge yourself. As we reach the conclusion, I think everybody is in really positive spirits and has, think it's been a great experience.
You might come out here and ride this loop with somebody you've ridden for 20 years maybe, but you go spend 4 or 5 days doing this and helping each other in the camaraderie. You're going to see your friend different probably than you did on your previous rides in some cases. It's a great experience for anybody that wants to do it.